hang out with us, for a little while, welcome. For those of you who know me, I thank you for your continued trust. Those of you who are joining me for the first time today, hi. My name is Dr. Celina Peerman, and this opportunity, in my approach to webinars, you have a lot of webinars to choose from today. There are lots of ways you can engage content out there. This has been a way for our team to take a look at some of the new content we're developing, research that we've had underway. And this is a topic I've recently had the opportunity to do. And it just gave us some additional conversation around, is this a way to take a couple of really key topics and maybe frame them with some new insight? We'd like to take you through the content today. I'm excited to share this with you, and then you get to decide, how does this apply for you? So as we move through this content, it's my ongoing pleasure just to say shout out to our team. Anne McLaughlin is here with us on the call today. Tony may be also. Anne is running co-pilot with us today, so she'll be in the chat and can support you with any questions that you have. And just delighted to have that group supporting our work. I want to start off with a question of what shaped how you show gratitude. Just consider for a quiet moment, when did that come about? How were you taught to show it, or maybe not show it, or in what ways do you show it? Certainly, I believe, and it's in my opinion that over these last years, we've talked about gratitude with some new visibility. We've really explored how gratitude practices can change us as people. This is how I originally learned how to share gratitude. Okay. All right. So, if I look back to the early memories for me and the way I was taught to express gratitude, these creatures might have had a lot to do with that. These as well, right? Grumpy Cat's a recent addition, but certainly an Oscar the Grouch. But I think about this in terms of, when we have learned to show that, it becomes much more intentional. But I want to consider just a moment for you before we go into the business organizational effectiveness of gratitude and the model that we're working on, to really consider the stories we tell. Because the stories we tell in our personal lives absolutely represent this quality of gratitude. And the stories we tell at work influence climate, culture, behaviors, relationships, literally every aspect of our work. And I think about the fact that when we all come to work, not only do we have a story, but we really have multiple stories. And this becomes important as we apply this to our teams and to our companies later on in this presentation, to remember that everybody is walking in with different stories, different ways that they've learned to either express gratitude, feel gratitude, or receive gratitude. And so there are lots of different stories I could tell you. Some of you have seen my favorite pictures here before, but it was interesting to me as I've wrestled with this content. These pictures really reflect also to me ways I've learned to be thankful, right? And to extend gratitude and those people that have had impact on me. And so maybe for today, it's your moment to focus on what taught you how to express gratitude, what experiences, stories, people, situations framed how you name your story and how you name this expression at work. So I'm going to start with just that wider idea today. And then if you hang around me long, I start wide and then I go really narrow. Like, what does this mean when I'm showing up at work? What does this mean when I'm sending this next email? What does this mean after you log off this webinar and go to your next meeting? What does this mean for us as professionals in our work, as people, as part of this human experience? So it's that consideration today of how stories shape our perspective on gratitude. And why does that become important? Because as we bring individuals to create teams and sustain organizations, if we're going to cultivate practice of gratitude as a strategy, we need to start with the understanding that not everybody has the same definition. Not everybody will carry the same meaning for it, and we all have different stories. Much like when we think about cultivating a workplace culture that is going to be the kind we want to be a part of, that's going to help us drive our mission, our outcomes, whatever that is for you, we have to find the right culture fit for people at the organizational level, the team level, and the individual level. And the stories we bring with us shape that fit. So while we measure fit in organizational effectiveness at all of those levels, is this employee a good fit to the organization? Is this employee a good fit to the team or company, team or work group? Is this employee a good fit to the individual or work itself? We also have to think about that when it comes to this idea of gratitude as a strategy. So for just an opening opportunity here, you have access to the chat on the bottom toolbar of your screen. Should be a balloon icon that says chat. For those of you who are familiar with that, I'd like you to click on that. And here's my ask. I'm going to teach you a technique that you can walk out and literally do with your teams and staff this afternoon. So how's that for a takeaway? Choose 2 words that describe how you are today. So for example, 2 separate words would be optimistic, exhausted. Okay, maybe those are your words. You pick the 2 words that are right for you, or you could use 2 words in a sequence. Doing okay. All right. Or some of us like taking more words than that and smushing them together. Your 2 words might sound like working for the weekend. I want you to consider just where you're at right now. Where's your head at? What's your mind on? In 2 words. Either 2 separate words, 2 words in a sequence, or 2 more plus smushed together. As you're doing that, consider what your words were. It's one thing to think it, it's another thing to put it in the chat where everybody else can see this. But a lot of times, right, as we look at where does gratitude come from and how do we cultivate that as a daily practice in our personal lives and our professional lives, it starts with being able to name the moment. And when we can name it into 2 words or at least a short statement, it gives us an opportunity to focus. Where am I at right now? And I love this because I bet each of you can name someone in your team or in your organization that's a talker. Okay? Don't name them right now. But, you know, we got some talkers out there. And so sometimes for talkers, bringing it into 2 words or so gives them a moment of clarity. Like I could choose from all these things. Boom, where am I at right now? On the other end, for my quiet and my less verbal team members, I don't have to say a whole lot more. I can tell you 2 words and that's where I'm at. And it can be as informally or formally stated. If I said to you, hey, Ann, where's your head at right now? 2 words, right? Don't answer me right now. But right, that's a check-in we can do with each other. And the reason I say that is because it gives us a moment to center. I like it as a coaching activity. For me to be able to find out where somebody's at right now allows me to reach them better. I'm going to turn that around on us today, though. I'm going to say, when you name those 2 words, you have a moment to be able to practice some gratitude. I'm optimistic and I'm grateful for the fact that I can choose to be optimistic. I'm exhausted and I'm grateful that I had really good work to do last night, even if I'm tired. So now what we can do is take a coaching practice to find out where somebody else is at and turn it around and say, what do I need at the moment? So I wanted in this brief time we have together to give you one more takeaway that you could actually put into practice. Now I'm going to give you some additional ones specifically wrapped around the idea of gratitude, but this is an interesting one that I wanted to try out for this. So let's start with a few definitions just to make sure we're coming out of that same space. If you look at the definition of gratitude, it is some sort of typically a feeling of thankfulness or appreciation for some sort of positive aspects of life. They could be tangible or intangible. Most often within us, it involves recognizing and acknowledging the good things that happen to us and as well as the people who contribute to our well-being. So why talk about it? What we're seeing in the research in these last years, and I'm pretty sure this has been true all the way along, but now we have some different data points. It is absolutely connected to our mental health, right? Our brain health, because it reduces many different types of symptoms while increasing overall psychological well-being. It has an impact to our physical health. Practices of gratitude have been shown to show better sleep, lower stress levels, and improved immune function. Gratitude has a connection to relationships. It strengthens bonds and fosters a sense of connection and community. Interestingly, it increases our ability to bounce back, our resilience. It helps us cope better and recover from adversity more effectively. Study after study has shown greater life satisfaction because with an intentional choice of gratitude, it gives us a more positive outlook on life, leading to higher levels of happiness and satisfaction. Okay, we know some of that. We leveled it out for today. Why talk about this at work? Right? This is, if you've spent much time with me, this one is a little further out there. And I've really had to think about, what does this look like? And here's what it brought me back to it. I'm so fortunate to be able to walk alongside so many companies, to be able to see how they do things, what their approach is to people and processes and outcomes. And continuously, the ones who are leading the edge, they're driving business results with and through their people, are deploying something connected to a practice of gratitude. And we may not name it that same way, but you'll quickly recognize the strategies that are involved with it, that let's name it in a new way so we can tell some better stories about it. Research is already showing that when, right, the practice of gratitude is in place, it creates a more positive work environment, ultimately increasing morale, creating that positive culture. There's more encouragement, and interesting key point, it produces more internal motivation. As employers, we focus on external motivation. We provide the things in the environment for you to wanna. And that internal motivation that you gotta wanna, right? When we can find things to boost that does that, we are so much stronger. So I want us to consider also that the practice of gratitude has been now connected to enhancing job satisfaction. Employees who feel recognized and appreciated for their hard work are more likely to feel satisfied with their jobs. Gratitude can help employees feel like they're really just such an important part of the organization, fostering, right, that sense of belonging and loyalty. Being appreciated for contributions leads to a greater sense of personal fulfillment and job satisfaction. Here's my bottom line to that. It is really hard for people to show up in any job ongoing feeling like they're not winning. This is a way to bring more wins back, even when things are tough. I think it's worth noting in this, it is different than appreciation. Gratitude is a deeper emotional response to receiving something beneficial. Appreciation is really about recognition and enjoyment of the good qualities of someone or something. Gratitude is different than happiness. Gratitude is a specific feeling about thankfulness and appreciation, while happiness is a broader, more general sense of well-being and joy. It is different than obligation. I think it's an interesting one to add into this. Gratitude is a voluntary feeling, whereas obligation involves a sense of duty, where I feel like I owe, right, that I'm required to repay someone. It is different than sympathy, where this is about thankfulness for kindness received. Sympathy focuses more on pity and sorrow as emotions for somebody else's misfortune. It is different than empathy, where empathy is the ability to express an understanding, right? And hear the feelings that I understand that that's the way you feel. And I am interested in this one because throughout all of our leadership development work, I often use the phrase, as leaders, I want you confident yet humble. So how does humility fit into this practice of gratitude? Humility is that modest view of my own importance, which can coexist. I love that. Coexist with gratitude, but really is more about self-perception. This is not about the ego. This is about, and it's not about being humble, right? Those are often seen as opposites there, but that practice of, right, how we do this. So why bring this to you? Why have we been working on this? And I really share this with you because we've come out of some past practices and paradigm shift that just don't work anymore. And we talk about this within leadership development. We've come out of a compliance model, do it because I said so. And that model no longer works, that we understand when people are committed, they understand the why, we create the environment that allows them to perform at their best. We're going to outperform our competition. We're going to hit those outcomes and we're going to take care of our mission and purpose better. We've seen a shift. And I really want you to consider today whether this is your refresher. Maybe you just needed, okay, a little bit of time with me. So thanks for taking us up on that. Or maybe you were just looking for something else in your day-to-day and you said, this looks good and I need a little bit of something else to think about. Maybe it's your refresher. Or maybe you need to make this case to others. And so what I want to do for the rest of our time together is help you make that case. Now, in my work as an organizational psychologist, often within leadership development, we'll talk about making the business case. That if I'm going to go to my manager, if I'm going to go to my coworkers or other senior leaders, or if I'm going out to my team to pitch something, to bring an idea to them that I want them to buy in, I have to make the case. I have to have enough understanding about the situation. I need to have built the relationships to convince them or influence them that this is the kind of decision we need to make. I'm going to give you 3 levels to do that on. Maybe for you today, it's just at your individual level. You're going to lead by example. You're going to put some gratitude out there, and you're going to feel the benefit. You're going to model it for others in hopes that they'll catch on, or that they'll see you doing better and they want to as well. Maybe for you, it's your team. Maybe you could take that 2-word exercise today, turn that into an activity in an upcoming staff meeting, and just talk about where you're at right now and what does that mean for you, right? Or maybe you need to make the case that as an organization, we've done some okay things when it comes to shifting our culture in a more positive way. This could be the next amount of energy you need to make that happen. So there are a number of business areas or organizational areas that we are seeing come up in the research that you can tie where gratitude can impact those results. We recognize that when practices of gratitude at the individual, the team, or the organizational level are consistent and pervasive, and they now create a culture of gratitude, we have increased job satisfaction, we have higher engagement. When employees are more engaged, which means they use their discretionary effort for good, not evil, as I like to say in leadership development, it translates higher into higher productivity and better performance. When practices of gratitude are expressed, it improves team dynamics. And interestingly, I thought this is a really good point, higher efficiency. Because guess what? We are not wasting our time on a whole bunch of negative stuff. Now, that doesn't mean we're covering it up. That'll get me called in. Like, don't cover it up and just pretend it's not there. But higher efficiency means we have now more energy to put towards stuff that's going to drive results that we're looking for. It also shows in our forward-facing to customers, clients, patients, students, whoever that is for you. We provide better customer service because, and you can see this in any place of business you do work with, it leads to higher employee morale, which gives us higher customer service satisfaction and loyalty. No doubt about it. And you can see that throughout the customer service literature. It also brings a better positive brand image. A company known for a positive culture, we know, will attract more customers and partners who want to be associated with those values. Interestingly, we're seeing the connection of innovation and creativity because When we feel safe to participate, learn, and give feedback, it encourages risk taking, which means in a supportive and an appreciative environment, employees are more willing to take risks and share innovative ideas without the fear of criticism and destructive feedback. And it fosters creativity. It gives us some emotional bandwidth to be more open-minded and contribute so that creativity can flourish. Last couple on this, we see reduced stress and total health improvement, including mental health in terms of overall health and well-being of employees. And what we're seeing more in the organizational health research is that then, of course, the company does better. Financial performance, there are actually metrics I'm going to show you in a few minutes that you could put a gratitude mix together that as an organization in your team or department, this is how we might measure, because it seems pretty strange on how do you measure gratitude. We can see some direct cost savings. Lower turnover, absenteeism can be direct costs related to recruitment, training, and even potentially lost productivity when we don't have this. Revenue growth, engaged and motivated employees contribute to higher sales, better customer retention, and driving revenue growth. Lastly, competitive advantage. When we can attract top talent, when we have an enhanced reputation, again, we're going to be competing even in nonprofits or other kinds of types of work, gives us that ability to look at the picture and this is how we add value. This is where we're going to provide better services. We have that enhanced viewpoint, which is our competitive edge. And we know as leaders, it starts with us, but it's not about us. It's what we do with and through others. We know that within a culture of gratitude, we get better leadership development. They set a positive example, which means our teams are doing better. And interestingly, I thought this was a really interesting point. We make better decisions. Positive and supportive environment encourages open communication, leading to better informed decisions. Consider for a moment out of those 8, right? Just something that resonates with you. I will also share with you that we're going to make the slide deck available. So when we send out the recording, that'll go out to everybody who signed up today. We'll get that in your email, and we're going to attach a summary of what you see here. So let's add on this next section of measuring progress. So how do we know? Like gratitude feels like, how do I actually get a hold of it? And I really want us to reconsider. One of the things that I've struggled with in this topic is I want us to take this from a position of strength. This is not about wishy-washy, something, some sort of hand-holding, trust-falling, kumbaya-ing kind of approach. No, right? This is really about putting us in a position of strength. We know who we are. We know what we're about. We know what we're good at, we're not good at. And this practice of gratitude, we're going to leverage that to take us the next level, to put our efforts in a motion that helps us drive results. It wasn't at the end of last academic year, I was with a group of HR and business psychology professionals at one of our state universities. And I'm in this room full of about 40 juniors and seniors mostly. There were a few freshmen and sophomores in there too, but a lot of them were getting ready for their next step. And I stood in front of them and I'm telling stories from my last 30 years of HR and lessons learned and tough mistakes and all the things. And I looked at them and I said, for you. And they're all looking at me like, okay, you're a little too enthusiastic. Like, what's that about? And I said, I am really excited for you because for the rest of your career, you are going to get to redesign organizations. Because that's what we're doing. We have learned that many of the past practices no longer work. And for that group, I said that to them. And they said, we're really glad you're that excited. We're just not sure anybody else is that excited for us to come into the workforce. I'm like, oh, we need you because you're going to see this differently than anybody else. And I said, and by the way, you're now in my network. And so I want you to come tell me your stories when I'm sitting in a nursing home someday, because I want to hear how you're rewriting organizations. what does that mean for us? It means we need to measure some different things. We still have all the required financial reporting. Absolutely. We have to include that in our business case. We can't do this without some measurements. So we have a list of measurements that we could, and they may not be all of them that you're using, but I bet you have some of these. Could you frame it and name it in your organization that when we do better at this, many things improve? So we see this with employee engagement scores, however you might be measuring those, whether that's regular employee engagement surveys, other types of engagement metrics. I was walking through an organization not too long ago, and they were having an event, and the HR manager I'm walking with, who just wanted people to just have a great time with this, sounded so disappointed about how the event was going. And in her words to me, she said, yeah, but only 9 people participated. She was expecting many more. And I said, did the 9 have fun? She goes, I really think they did. And I said, and so when they were doing this event, were other people included or watching them have fun, even if they weren't directly involved? And she goes, oh yeah, they were having a great time. I said, sometimes we measure the wrong thing. And so really thinking about what we say in terms of company events or people recommending people to work here, or people reporting on, I feel good when I work here. We certainly see some other measurables in turnover rates, whether it's voluntary turnover or how we keep people, retention rates. Interestingly, there's good support for looking at productivity metrics. When we engage that culture in our team or overall organization and talk about gratitude as a strategy, interestingly, it changes the way we lead, changes the way we give feedback, which increases performance. Might also, part of tied to performance is what the output is. For some of us, that's clients served. For some of us, that's sales figures. Some of us, it's project completion. Whatever that measurement is for you, there's a carry through because we feel better about the work. Certainly, there are ways to measure customer satisfaction and ways that probably you have established now. Think about customer feedback you get. I was touring a 911 call center in the Midwest, and they were having some morale issues, and they were in the basement of an old police station. And so it was kind of like, it reminded me as a preacher's kid, like all the pictures I saw in old European churches of catacombs, like it was dark, and it was the IT control center, right? So in their 911 call center with all the technology, it was cold, it was dark, lots of screens, really good work, amazing people. And we're walking through, and I just was amazed at how many stories I heard about feedback that 911 operators would get from situations that they helped on. Like people would write in and send them things and say, thank you for this amazing impact to the invisible person over the phone, right? That person just has such an amazing impact on how they dispatch and how they serve and how they talk to people in many times the worst moments of their life. And we're talking about this, and there's just people just feel, we want them, there's this balance point for communication centers like that to be attached but detached. And I said, so, you're telling me all these amazing stories, but I don't see anything. Is there mementos or notes or anything that you receive that would remind us that customer feedback when I'm on my next call? There's my reminder. And with all really good intents and purposes, she says, oh, yeah, come with me. She took me in the back room in a drawer, and that's where they all sat. And I said, I get it's dark, but what can we do to get those up somewhere? Because top of mind, right, reminds me that customer feedback gives us those moments. Because it's when we're feeling better, we get creative. It's when we feel better, we're innovative. So we can actually measure how innovative we are by how many new ideas have been submitted. What projects have we taken? What processes have we improved? Because when we're down, harder to come up with new stuff. Go back to my phrase earlier. It's really hard to come in every day feeling like you're not winning, which then starts affecting our health and well-being metrics. How often are people calling out, and for what reasons? We also can do some health cost tracking. What does those claims look like? And who's participating in wellness programs? Great connection there for when I practice gratitude and I am aiming to take more gratitude actions in my life. I feel better. I am more likely. There's connections to wellness program participation. I thought that was really interesting. A couple more there. We can tie this to revenue growth, profit margins. We can see this in training and development and participation rates, as well as training feedback. There's a lot of different ways to look at how do we match this, right? Now, you could call it something else in gratitude. Gratitude is a set of definitions that I offered earlier. But if you were to be intentional with gratitude, which of these could you pull out and say, that's the one we're going to work on? And we're going to take one out of that category and that category and that category. And we're going to tie it to a strategy of gratitude. Now, I have not yet written a strategic plan that had gratitude at the top, right? But I am using the word strategy today because I love the definition, a declaration of intent. So your organization may have a strategic plan and it has these core strategies that you're going to deliver on for the next 3 years. Strategy is a declaration of intent. So again, you could do this at the individual level, the team level, or the organizational level. And there are many methodologies in which we can take those data points, whether they're surveys or questionnaires, HR metrics, financial analysis, other types of productivity or performance management systems, and bring them together. If we're collecting the data already, I think there's an interesting point here to take those data pieces and say, what does it tell us about gratitude? That we've really tried this year to express it, to show it, to model it. Or if you're going to make the business case today that our organization would be healthier and more productive if we really thought about our practice of gratitude. There are other ways to do it in terms of just baseline data that you have now, regular monitoring so that you track changes over time. And I like to point this out when momentum shifts. So in a lot of the training I do with teams and companies, whether I'm on site with you, whether I'm live virtual with you like I am today, or whether we're in our on-demand learning system, I want us as organizational leaders or team members to watch when the momentum shifts. When it goes down, we got to catch it. So let's say your team just hits like a really hard spell. Name it. Like, this is really hard right now. We don't know when this is going to end. Practicing gratitude in that helps us remember to be able to persevere through it. But when those dips come, you got to name them. When those dips come, we got to do something to push us back up. Now, there might be some other mathematical, statistical things that you can draw on from data points in your organization and identify key reports now, right? But also, when we talk about this, like, this is not a mushy, wishy-washy, we're all going to be happy now. No, it's how do we say we're grateful for where we're at? What are we going to do next? And this is a forward-thinking model. You know, many times within my work, I love this conversation. Someone will say to me, it's worked for us so far. Got any of those people? If you're sitting next to them or you can wave at them, don't do that right now. Okay. But there are just some people who get stuck there and say, it's working for us so far. I don't know why we need to change it. Here's what I love doing in that conversation. I'm really glad it's working for us. Nice job. Thanks for letting me know that. I'm really glad it's working for us. How are we going to know it's still working for us? How will we know that that's still our next best step? Because that's situational awareness. That is a mindset. That is a staying aware in the environment that we're still doing what we need to be doing. And that can tie to gratitude too. Like, when we're off, when we have a bad day, we have a bad week, what's going to pull us back to center? Our values. Behaviors are always stronger when they're tied to value sets. So if we can tie that into a practice and then tie that into a system of here's what we track and result, we're going to be able to do it in a more systematic, long-term way. So for my remaining time for you today, I just got to pull a few clips for you. My hope is there's something in here just lifts you up today that you can take with you to start a conversation. You could take the recording of this webinar, play it within a team meeting or a portion of it, talk about it. And while there are longer programs I can do on this, today we just wanted to pull a little bit of it out, maybe give you something that you need today. So I'm going to end here for the next few minutes, which is what are some actions? Like, what are some of the things happening out there that I'm seeing that you might just be able to go, oh, that one would work for us. Certainly, I mentioned one of my mantras earlier that I just, to my core, believe as leaders, it starts with us, but it's not about us. It's up to us. We carry the heavy weight. This leadership thing, not easy, right? Whether you're a people leader, a project leader, a technical leader, but it starts with leaders. And if you would like to take the snippet of this video and play that for your boss, I will happily do that. I'd even record you something directly, right? So maybe there's a person in your company that needs to hear that. That's okay. But it starts with you, right? How can you demonstrate more trust and respect, more open communication, and provide support? We see in the data, leaders who practice gratitude tend to be more supportive and empathetic, strengthening relationships with their team members. There are so many examples out there. Like if you were to do a short internet search on gratitude rituals, practices where people can do this consistently, there are lists. I pulled in a couple of my favorite ones. Like how about a gratitude meeting? Start off your next staff meeting with what's something you're grateful for. And in the US, not at Thanksgiving time only, okay? We have a practice and I love Thanksgiving, right? But how do you make this a practice at other times? What's one good thing that's happened for you this week? We ask that all the time. What's one thing you're thankful for is a new one. We don't ask that as much. It can set a very positive tone and encourage appreciation, right? That practice between team members. Gratitude jar, if it's not staff meeting, gratitude jar is one example. I like gratitude whiteboards. Even in some of my toughest manufacturing and trades environments, whiteboard, put it up there. What are you thankful for this week? Now, sometimes you got to set some rules in the workplace around what can people write on the whiteboard and what can they write. Call me about that. But it's interesting. People want it. People want to say, I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful this person helped me out. Or daily gratitude emails. I know we don't need more emails in our inbox, but being able to send something, right? Daily, weekly email, it could be appreciation, could be a quote, could be just something around the practice of gratitude. I've mentioned today a couple of times, so I wanted to put it in here in writing. In organizational health and well-being, my role as an organizational psychologist looking at effectiveness, when we look at the research, we're always looking at 3 levels of outcomes, at the individual level, the team level, and the organizational level. And so I want you to really cement that in today. Coming out of this is that you can practice gratitude as a strategy as an individual, as a team, or at the organizational level. You don't have to do all of them all of the time to get results. And as I'll point out in a moment, as illustrated by the chosen picture on this slide, not everybody's going to wanna, and that's okay. But the key is progress over time. Maybe you've adopted some individual practices. So I'm just going to invite you in the chat. If you have really made a commitment or you've been trying something, even if you feel like you're not doing it really well, is there something in your own life that you've been doing to practice gratitude? One of my favorites, I'm not a good journaler, so I love that example. I will just tell you, I'm not very good at it. It's interesting though, when I have thank you notes easily accessible, I write more of them. When there's, and there's so many ways to do this day, right? It could just be a small card out on a table. It's amazing people will do them if they're right there. But if I have to go hunt it down and find the pen and find the paper and then find where I'm delivering it, and if I have to put a stamp on it, way harder. But if I have it all together, I feel better, by the way. They feel better because they got something unexpected. Keep that in mind. Team activities, gratitude walls. There's a organization near where I live, and every time I love it because they've dry erased the wall with paint, right? So you can dry erase marker all of it. It's gratitude wall. You can do these digitally too for geographically dispersed teams in your intranet. Gratitude wall. Recognition moments, gratitude circles. Could be other types of a lunch and learn. or team activity where they share positive experiences as well. Some of the most common ones, and I know you know these, but the reason I put them back in here is sometimes we don't think about how these are tied to gratitude. And maybe for you right now, that's enough. It's the intention behind it that I just really want to encourage today. There were a couple other creative ones I came across. Gratitude Tree. They had a tree-shaped bulletin board where employees added leaves or notes expressing their gratitude. So if you have an environment that would just be fun, might be another way. They had peer-to-peer recognition, lots of peer-to-peer recognition programs that I have seen where we can nominate peers. That is powerful. And I know engagement in that, getting people to do it is hard. I really come back to within my work that we tend not to know how to give it, nor do we know how to receive feedback, right? But it's hard to tell somebody else sometimes those words. Again, if we're working on the wider environment, people are going to feel more confident. And we know that sometimes surprises are really, really good. These were two practices I came across. One was a mindful gratitude break. Employees just took short breaks during the day to reflect. It was just simply posters up and reminders. Take a pause, 60 seconds, where are you at? End of day reflection, I really like this one. Create a habit where employees share one thing that happened good today before they left work. And I think about that when we leave the workspace drained, right? It's even harder to come back the next shift or the next day. And when we can name it, and we see this in the motivation, when you can name it, check it off, it feels good. And so ending the day, whether it's me as a supervisor greeting my employees as they leave, that's one good thing that happened today. I don't know. Think about it. I'm going to ask you tomorrow too. All right. Tomorrow they come back by. It's one good thing that happened today. And they might go, you're serious about that? I'm like, yep. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you again. But there's a way there. Some people come up with it really easily. It's just how they show up in this world. Other people, it's a bigger challenge. We have to bring them along. So maybe for you today, it's what am I grateful for today? I'm just going to give you a couple of core questions as we wrap up here that we can go that bigger picture. We can talk about organizational practices. You can decide what do you want to be more intentional about. Maybe today it just starts with you. Who has made a positive impact on your life recently? And how can you show appreciation? What challenges have I overcome and what did I learn from them? Sometimes we just got to name that. And how can I incorporate acts of gratitude into my daily routine so it becomes part of who you are and what you do so that we make time for it and with intention. Practical tips, start where you are. Not going to change everybody else. Gain leadership buy-in, make your case. You've got some metrics, you've got some measurables to talk to whoever your audience is to say, we don't have to put it in the strategic plan, but if it's part of our core values or it's part of our practices, this is where we can get it to count. Create those regular opportunities. There are actually training programs we can do and others will do on practice of gratitude. Look for those feedback mechanisms. Bottom line is by practicing gratitude, leaders can create a more positive, engaging workplace that supports employees' retention and fosters that culture of appreciation and mutual respect. The reality is, though, that some people will always choose not to. Just like some companies I work with will choose, like Celina, that's a little fluffy. That is not for us. You never quite know when they're going to change their mind or life gives them new insight because this human experience often does. If we look at all of this and how it comes together, people stay where people are cared about. And that's a mantra that I will continue to use. And my approach to this work, my life, and the people I care about, that's how we stay connected. So as we think about wrapping up today, thank you for your investment of time. Whether you're watching this live today or you're watching the recording later, I will just continue to invite you to engage with us in ways that are important and how we can support you and your work. I'll note in the recording feedback, or if you want to take a moment now, if there's some feedback that you can offer us, I would love a shout out or a quote that just continues to help our little small boat keep rowing. So if you have a moment to do that, I would be grateful. I appreciate the comments and the chat. That was super fun. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you all.